What is the backdoor approach when using indexed universal life? Why is the least face amount or death benefit used when you're structuring a max funded IUL? Get ready. I think you're going to gain insights into why IUL is my favorite financial instrument, how you self-insure, and how the insurance gets cheaper as you get older when you structure it correctly. Get ready. So I'm Doug Andrew, and I've been a financial strategist now for 5 decades. And if you've watched very many of my educational videos, my favorite financial vehicle, without question, is a properly structured, max-funded IUL. And it knocks the socks off of all the other types of alternatives, such as IRAs or 401ks or the market or mutual funds or annuities or whatever. And sometimes people say, man, is that all Doug talks about? Well, when people say, don't you diversify? Yes, I diversify into superior IUL policies with different carriers. Why would you diversify into inferior financial products? Why, it says, oh, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Well, okay, I put my eggs in several different, all kinds of different IUL baskets. But if they think that means, oh no, only so much of your money should be in IUL and the rest of it ought to be in banks. Why? The eggs are going to break over that. They won't even keep up with inflation in banks and credit unions. Mutual funds, oh no, you're going to lose 30 or 40% every time the market goes down. I don't want to lose. You don't diversify into inferior products. That's not what diversification is. Diversification means you diversify into superior vehicles. That's why so many of our clients will have, within 6 to 10 to 20 years, not just one IUL, they'll have 3, they'll have 6. We have one that has 17 because, they have more money and they diversify just like I have. So when we start talking about how to structure this, one of the things that sometimes people don't understand is when you use max-funded IUL, you are self-insuring, okay? And this is really the brainchild of E.F. Hutton, who came up with this idea, because E.F. Hutton back in 1980, they had hundreds of thousands of clients in the market. And they realized, listen, even if we could earn an average of 12%, and most people, if they bought and held in the market, would only earn 9.14, by the way. But that's before tax. If you earn 9, you only get a net 6 at the end of the day after tax in a tax-deferred IRA or 401k. Even if you earn 12%, you'd only net 8% after paying tax, and then you subtract another 1% in fees, you have to earn 12 to net 7. E.F. Hutton said, what are we thinking? Let's go to the multi-trillion-dollar insurance industry, the backbone of America and also the backbone of the world. They're the best money managers, and we can just earn 11 and net 10 by keeping the cost of insurance as small as possible and eventually getting rid of the cost of insurance. So how do you do that? Okay, I'm going to use a hypothetical example. Let's say a 60-year-old. If a 60-year-old came to me and they wanted to know where is the best place to put my money so that I'm immune from taxes. I want a tax-free investment, okay? I want to make sure that whatever happens with inflation, I will keep up or outpace inflation. I want to make sure that I get a nice, predictable rate of return that outpaces inflation, but I want it to be tax-free, and I want to be able to access my money when I need it without waiting until I'm 59 and a half, or I don't want any of those strings attached. They go, well, what is it? Well, it's a non-qualified plan, not an IRA or 401k, but it is what E.F. Hutton designed back in 1980. It is a properly structured, max-funded universal life, and then indexed universal life came out in 1997 so that you could still get great rates of return and not lose when the market went down and also make money when the market goes up. And sometimes people say, well, that sounds too good to be true. Well, if you ignore it, when people say, no, that sounds too good to be true, I'm not going to pay attention, I snicker because I go, wow, there's a lot of things in my life that sounded too good to be true that actually ended up being true. If I would have ignored it, I would have missed out, okay? Don't miss out here. So let's go back to this terminology here, this backdoor. Back in 1980, it meant this. When clients came to me, the vast majority didn't come necessarily wanting or needing more life insurance death benefit. Now, sometimes I would put on my insurance hat if they were underinsured, and I wanted to make sure the max funded IUL had enough death benefit that met the needs based upon what if they did die, okay? Yeah, you want to do that, but usually the insurance that comes along for the ride is adequate to do that. If it didn't, I might add a term rider or something like that, okay? To make sure that if they happen to die sooner than later, that it would create an immediate estate that would take care of their survivors, their beneficiaries, if they had stayed around. That's the death benefit approach. Now, E.F. Hutton was doing it primarily for living benefits. The death benefit was secondary. Does that make sense? So the backdoor approach was this. Instead of sitting down with somebody and going, okay, Jim and Mary, how much life insurance would you like? Or do you want me to calculate how much death benefit you ought to have? And they're in their 30s and they have 4 children and you know, there's formulas that say, well, they can get up to 30 times their income. If they're making 100 grand a year, they qualify for $3 million of insurance, and that ought to keep, you know, the survivor and the kids maintaining the same lifestyle if there was a premature death, okay? That way you're trying to calculate the amount of insurance you want or need, and what's the least amount of premium that you can pay into a policy to get that, okay? And either that premium goes up with term insurance, or else you pay a level premium into whole life and they guarantee the death benefit won't lapse. Whole life was designed to have guarantees in it, so the death benefit is number one. Now, if you self-insure, then what you're doing is what E.F. Hutton came up with. I want my money that I'm putting in there to grow tax-free. And you do that by taking ownership in the death benefit and taking away the risk from the insurance company. Let me simplify this. If I wanted to own my life insurance and I needed $1 million of it, well, if I wanted to totally own all that risk, then I would pay $1 million. Well, then it's like, well, who would do that? Well, you're using Section 101A of the Internal Revenue Code to turn your million into tax-free the rest of your life. But see, you can't put $1 million into a dinky little $10,000 life insurance policy, okay? And so TEFRA and DEFRA tax citations that were passed in 1982 and 1984 said you have to have a commensurate amount of insurance at the beginning in order to not exceed the definition of tax-free death benefit, but also the tax-free accumulation and tax-free access under Sections 72E, 7702, and 101A of the Internal Revenue Code. So let's just get back to the concept here. If this 60-year-old comes to me and says, I have 200, let's say 500. I have 500,000 that I want to reposition to increase liquidity, safety, ready to return the tax benefits. It could be coming from strategic rollouts out of IRAs and 401ks. It could be coming from selling a rental home that he's sick and tired of being the landlord and taking out the trash and fixing toilets and evicting tenants. It could become repositioning underperforming assets that have been sitting in banks and credit unions, rowing upstream, so to speak, at 1, 2, or 3 miles an hour or interest when the current of inflation is coming down at 6, 7, or 8. See, people would come to me and they wouldn't say, how much life insurance? Usually the conversation was, Doug, where can I reposition this $500,000 to dramatically increase liquidity, safety, ready to return on the tax benefits? And I go, oh, then we want a maximum fund and insurance policy because it's tax-free. So what does that mean? You are using the backdoor approach. You're taking the least amount of death benefit the IRS will let you get away with. So under TEFRA and DEFRA tax citations, based upon the person's age, gender, and health, and even if they were unhealthy, you can squeeze down the death benefit so that the internal rate of return is the same. The cost of insurance is the same as far as what percent of my money, my rate of return, what percent of my rate of return is going towards the cost of the insurance. that the IRS says has to be there for it to be tax-free. So Teffer and Deffer gave what is called parity. It means it doesn't matter how old you are or how unhealthy, if you qualify, even with a table rating, you can take less insurance. You can take the least amount of death benefit. And then if you earn, like I have 11%, I've earned 11.17. If you earn 11, then you can net 10, retroactive back to day one, cash on cash. If you earn 9, you'll net 8, because the cost of insurance is draining out 1 of the percentage points of your gross rate of return. And that's true for the 22-year-old athletic marathon running female. It's true for the 60-year-old. It's true for a 78-year-old who came to me in the 1980s. He had 3 blocked arteries, adult onset diabetes, a prostate cancer episode, 6 sisters predeceased him, and 3 brothers. He got rated table D, and he wanted to put in $500,000, which he did. But what was his objective? He wanted to have tax-free income immediately. This was before the TAMRA law was passed in 1988. He put in $500,000 and started taking out $50,000 a year tax-free. He was earning 11 and netting 10 right off the bat. How was he able to do that at age 78? Because the cost of his insurance was identical as far as the percent of his rate of return as it is for a 22-year-old female taking out one of these, even though he's older and unhealthy, okay? It's because Teffer and Deffer allowed you to squeeze down the least amount. See, a 22-year-old putting in $500,000 might have to have $4 or $5 million of insurance to earn 11 and net 10. A 60-year-old only has to have $1 million, okay? And he only needed like $700,000. If he died, $500,000 blossomed to $700,000, but he didn't do it for that. He did it so that $500,000 would generate $50,000 a year of tax-free income. Are you getting it? Okay. So you calculate the least amount of insurance. And by the way, if he would have been totally uninsurable, we would have used his wife. That's called a surrogate. Or his 2 adult children and insured their lives, because it's the owner of the insurance policy that gets all the tax-free accumulation. But usually I put it on the oldest, healthiest. When I say healthiest, the one that can qualify even if they're rated, because the cost of insurance is the same. Let's go back to this 60-year-old real quick. So he designs an IUL, and he's 60 years old, and he wants to reposition $500,000. Teffer and Deffer says the least amount of death benefit is $1 million. He could buy way more insurance than that. That's not the objective. So he puts in $500,000 now to comply with TAMRA, so it doesn't become taxable when he takes out money. He can only fund it basically about 20 to 25% a year. Let's just use 20%. He puts in $100,000. And then the first year, and then $100,000 the second year, $100,000 the third. The $100,000 in the 5th year could actually be the first day of the 5th year, which is actually 4 years and 1 day into the contract. Many of our clients maximum fund it in compliance with the IRS in 4 years and 1 day. Now, whole life, by the way, takes 7 years. You have to buy more insurance with whole life, and you have to take 7 years. It takes longer to get your money in there. So universal life blows whole life out of the water. By 65, if you were earning 11, you'd net 10. If you're 9, you'd net 8. With whole life, you have to let it sit there without taking any money out until you're age 95. If you earned 8, you'd only net 5.9. Because the whole life insurance costs so much for the death benefit, okay? And so if you're using it for living benefits, IUL is the answer, because I can net what whole life might gross at the best, okay? And so the backdoor approach is this. I got a 60-year-old. He wants to reposition $500,000. We're going to apply with TAMRA. What's the least amount of insurance? Oh, it's $1 million. Now, he puts in $500,000 by 4 years and 1 day. If he dies, he still only leaves behind $1 million. So 500,000 of that was his own money. He self-insured. He took ownership at that point in half of that death benefit. Well, the insurance company's only charging for the remaining amount at risk, the remaining 500,000. So even though he's 4 years and 1 day older, the amount of insurance he's paying for is half of what it was, because now $500,000 is his own. He's self-insuring. That $500,000 earning an average rate of return of 9.6%, which is what I've earned since 1980. 9.6 divided into the rule of 72 means that 500,000 would double to $1 million in 7.5 years. So you add 7.5 years on top of 4 years, and in 11.5 years, many of my clients, the money, because of the interest, I'm not even calculating the interest here, the cash in the policy now equals and exceeds the original $1 million death benefit. Now they are self-insured. The cost of insurance is zippo. Now, Tefra and Defra says if they happen to die, the insurance company is obligated to pay out 5% more than their cash value. So if you died, they would pay out $1,050,000. But the insurance company is only charging you for $50,000 of insurance at risk. The other million's your money. The interest on your million is so much greater, it's dwarfing the cost of $50,000 of insurance. When that million, that million could generate $100,000 a year of tax-free income if that's when you chose to start taking out money. But if you didn't, that million in another 7.5 years doubles to $2 million. If you die, the death benefit's $2.1 million. The insurance company's only charging you for $100,000 of insurance, but the interest on your $2 million is, in other words, in that year, if you earned 11, you'd net 10.9 in that year. But retroactive back to day one, if you averaged 11, you'd net 10. If you earned 9, you'd net 8, okay? And so that's accomplished with max-funded IUL, and the insurance gets cheaper as you get older. So many naysayers don't understand this. They say, oh, IUL is going to crash and burn, it's going to implode. They don't even know what they're talking about because they're comparing apples to oranges, okay? So backdoor means the opposite of front door. Front door is, oh, Jim and Mary, how much life insurance do you want? Or let's calculate what you need. And then they're calculating the least premium. We're doing the opposite. Oh, Jim and Mary, what assets do you want to optimize, reposition to increase liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits? We find out if it's $500,000, $1 million, $500 a month, whatever. Instead of putting that in IRAs or 401ks, now we calculate what we're going to put into the IUL during the next 5 or 11 years, and then we calculate the least death benefit we can get away with. And usually that's going to be adequate, but that's the backdoor approach. How much money do you want to optimize to increase liquidity, safety, rate of return, and tax benefits? And then we'll calculate the least amount of insurance we can get away with, and then we're going to have this money grow to where you're self-insured as quickly as possible, so the insurance is getting cheaper as you get older, okay? You're self-insured. Hopefully you got some insights here. If you want to learn more, this is just the tip of the iceberg. Our 11th book has been flying off of our warehouse shelves. It's called the L.A.S.E.R Fund. What is a L.A.S.E.R fund? Well, it's a property-structured, max-funded, indexed universal life. And I would say that 99% of IUL in America is not structured. It would not qualify to be deemed a L.A.S.E.R fund. A L.A.S.E.R fund is an IUL, but it's one structured correctly to do what I've been talking about based on this formula, okay? L.A.S.E.R means liquid asset safely earning returns. It's an acronym. And so this book will blow you away with charts, graphs, and explanations. 200 pages on this side, 14 chapters. But if you're a right brain learner, you flip it over to this side. And this has 62 actual client stories in 12 chapters. Right brain, left brain learning. If you want to use your whole brain, I'd read both of these books. Now, this retails for $20 on Amazon. And if you buy it on Amazon, thank you. But I'll gift you one free, a hard copy, okay? And so to claim your free copy, you simply go to laserfund.com or click on the link below. And I require some skin in the game. You contribute a nominal amount towards the shipping and handling. I'll cover the rest of that. And I'll pay for the book. I will fire out a hard copy to you via priority mail. But while you're in there claiming your free copy, if you like to listen and learn or you like to watch and learn, there's audio and video training options there. But here's the most important thing. If you want to see how this works in your particular set of circumstances with your numbers, you could actually schedule an appointment to talk to the creme de la creme, what is called an IUL certified professional. There's only a handful in America. And I would strongly recommend you have it done correctly so that you don't make a mistake for 5 or 10 years and then have to undo it and you've wasted 10 years of growth on your money. I've seen that happen way too many times. So with no cost or obligation, you can talk to a certified IUL professional. And that's a very hard certification to get, by the way. They have to score 100% on the exam. and there's 100 questions. And so you can schedule an appointment and no cost or obligation. And if you then want to implement it, they'll help you implement it. Otherwise, thanks but no thanks. And hopefully you'll learn something by seeing how it's done correctly, so that then you can compare that with somebody who doesn't know what they're doing, and they'll go, oh, how did he calculate that? Or how did she do that? It's amazing how many advisors all of a sudden go, wow, I have no idea how to do this that I have on the screen. So hopefully you've gained some insights. Take advantage of what I've been talking about, and I'll see you on the other side of your brighter future.